I'm going to now do what I recommend for my students to do, which is open up GRE Prep Club if they're studying for the GRE, and occasionally just for fun, maybe on a lunch break or after work, just bang out 10, 20 text completion questions, sentence equivalents, whatever you're feeling in the mood for that day. So that's what I've done here. I've opened up the first 10 text completion questions that I've seen. I'm going to work my way through them, maybe throwing in a bit of teaching along the way, but mainly just practice for us both. So treat it like an interactive video where you pause and try the question yourself too. Okay, that's the introduction. Let's get to the question and starting the timer. There we go. Let's see here. Although grandiose urban railroad stations are often viewed as glorious monuments to their cities. So we're starting off with although. Although these amazing stations are often viewed as glorious, what's about to come? A negative. They in fact something the cities by enabling the migration of city dwellers, people who live in the city, to the suburbs. The key word here is although. So although they're often viewed as glorious and awesome, they in fact something. So I'm looking for a negative word. Not invigorate, not enlarge. Enfeeble is negative. Delineate is not. Overshadow could be negative, but there's no hint that we're overshadowing something, that the rail station is more impressive than the city. No, we're weakening, we're enfeebling the city because people are moving away from the city to the suburbs. Official answer and stats are available only to registered users. Okay, well, I'll just quickly check in the comments if that's right. And yes, enfeeble is right. I pretty much knew that already. Obviously, when you're doing this site, feel free to log in. But the clue was the word although, setting up a contrast. Okay, next one. Teachers of, this is a long one, 3 blank question. Start the timer. Teachers of composition urge their students to, oh my goodness, excind, remove obloquy, eschew, avoid obfuscation, probably that one, like avoid confusion, too many words, evince, provide evidence for ossification, turning into stone. This is so weird. Teachers of composition urge their students to something in their writing and instead use clear, simple language. Yes, eschew obfuscation. Right, ooh, didn't want that to end, but oh well. Eschew obfuscation. Let's restart the timer actually, because that means to avoid being unclear. To obfuscate is to avoid giving a direct answer, to avoid being unclear, and instead they should use clear, simple language. Of course, vocab really helpful here to get B right. Why use a something vocabulary? Recreant, redolent. Redolent means to remind you of something. And recreant, I'm not entirely sure. I think it means to play around. Like recreation? Actually, no, recreant. Not entirely sure, but I know recondite means like erudite, advanced, superior. So that would make sense. Why use a really advanced vocabulary that might cause obfuscation when simple phrasing? That's my prediction. So yes, limpid came up in my recent vocab video, meaning clear phrasing. Could convey your meaning so much more effectively. So there's the contrast. Why use recondite, advanced vocabulary, when limpid phrasing would make things so much clearer? So that's my answer. Relatively harder because the vocab was quite difficult. Okay, let's do the next one. Start the timer. The shift away from fossil fuels as the world's primary energy source will not be sufficient to stabilize or reduce carbon emissions. So moving away from fossil fuels won't be enough. And therefore carbon something technologies should be implemented to something and store carbon waste. And therefore carbon reduction, well, sequestration is a fancy word for store and hide away. So the clue there is the word store at the end. So I'm pretty sure I also have heard of carbon sequestration. So that's going to be A. And then we have, it should be implemented to something. Not incarcerate, that means put in jail. Not liberate, that means free. You don't want to free carbon waste, you want to capture it. So A and E, I'm 100% certain there. What I will do is I won't check the answers, it will take too long. I will just tell you at the end if I got any wrong. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on because we can assume that I'm going to get them right. Okay, next one here. 2 blank question. Television promotes something of emotion in viewers through an unnatural evocation every 5 minutes of different something and feelings. Television promotes something of emotion. A discontinuity, because every 5 minutes something is different. That's what discontinuity means. It's not continuous, it's changing all the time. No clue about being obscure, like hiding away or withdrawing. So pretty sure it's C there for the first blank. In viewers through an unnatural evocation every 5 minutes of different and incompatible. It's going to be D because they're different, they don't mix together, they're incompatible feelings. Now you might say, why not the others? Where's the hint that we're talking about sympathetic feelings? Sympathetic means to have sympathy for someone, to care and compassion. Nothing about that in this sentence. It talks about things being unnatural, which fits with incompatible. So there's no evidence for E or F. Interminable means it goes on forever, and there's no evidence for that. So even if you doubt my answer, I could say there's no evidence for your answers or any other answers other than the ones that we picked here. Okay, next one. Having squandered his life savings on unprofitable business ventures, the something entrepreneur, well, unsuccessful, was forced to live in squalor, poverty. The unlucky, unfortunate, the insolvent, could say former because he's not doing it anymore, but it's more likely to be, I guess, insolvent because you wouldn't have the money. This question isn't great. There's no indication that he's not being an entrepreneur anymore, so I don't think it's former. It's not unlikely that he's an entrepreneur. The perturbed, like disturbed, no evidence for that. No evidence that he's eccentric, but there is evidence that he'd be insolvent, meaning lacking money, being bankrupt, because he's lost his life savings and he's living in poverty. So there's evidence for C. Again, not a great question because technically he could be a former entrepreneur. It's just that there's clear evidence for C, unlike the others. And the next one. Although pirating software, such as borrowing a friend's copy of an installation CD or downloading software from unapproved sources, is something uncommon, illegal, difficult, more likely illegal or difficult, but let's see. Many people continue to do so. Something savagely, there's no evidence for being savage. Sensibly, possibly. Unabashedly, meaning unashamedly, proud of it. Let's see which of those two have evidence. Almost as if they were unaware that such acts amount to theft. Well, we can't describe it as being sensible if the author's saying this is the same thing as theft. It's going to be unabashedly. These people have no shame. They're unabashed. Almost as if they didn't realize it was theft. So definitely F, and the fact that we're talking about theft makes it clear that we're not talking about something that's difficult, we're actually talking about something that's illegal. So B and F. If you notice, I'm answering these questions on average maybe in 40 seconds or 60 seconds. It's because I want to save time in the test for the reading comp questions, and that's why I go faster than technically I need to. Okay, next one, a 3 blank question. The novel emphasizes the innate, the inner something of all humans. Passion, corruptibility, optimism. Showing how each and every character within the narrative is ultimately one of those 3. Well, obviously we're going to have to find a pair here, but let's find out. This motif becomes tiresome, boring, due to its Subtlety. It would be boring because it's subtle, which is nuanced. Could be redundant or triviality. More likely triviality, because that would make you bored. However, as character after character is bribed, if we're talking about being bribed, we're talking about being corruptible. So it's going to be B for the first one, because if you're corruptible, it means you're corrupt, capable of being bribed, showing that each and every character is ultimately venal. Venal is a word that's come up in my vocab lists. I'm selling out on my vocab list. Please do check them out. And it means corrupt. So definitely matches up with corruptibility. And therefore, if every character is ultimately corrupt, then this motif becomes tiresome due to its... Let's read to the end. Every character is bribed either explicitly or implicitly into giving up his or her supposed cherished beliefs. Tiresome due to its triviality or redundancy. You can make an argument for redundancy, because if every single character is the same, then it's kind of redundant. Like, why do you keep needing to tell us that every human is corrupt? It's also kind of trivial. Is it trivial? Where's the evidence for trivial? This motif becomes tiresome due to its triviality. Treating serious things in a fun way. Is there any evidence for that? I think there's more evidence for redundancy than triviality, because there's no evidence that they're treating it in a non-serious way. I don't think it's a perfect question. I think in the real test there might be slightly more evidence, but I'd probably go for redundancy. Yeah, obviously we'd run out of time here. Anyway, I'll tell you at the end if I get any of these wrong. This one. All of the greatest chess players in the world know that it is folly to be something. Finicky, obdurate, stubborn, vituperative, aggressive, verbally assaulting someone when facing a formidable opponent. As stubbornness, there you go, so it must be obdurate, synonym of stubbornness, will almost surely lead to mistakes that force a player to something to the prevailing strategy of his opponent. Capitulate means basically resign, and if the opponent's strategy is prevailing, it means that they're winning, so therefore you would resign. Dissent is when you protest something, and you wouldn't protest a strategy in chess, you would resign to a strategy, you would capitulate. Repudiate means disprove an argument, again not applying to chess. So definitely B and D here. Nice little question. Next one. Before about 1960, virtually all accounts of evolution assumed most adaptation to be a product of selection at the level of populations. Okay, so most ways that animals adapt is the result of selection on the level of whole populations. Recent studies of evolution, however, have not found this something view of selection, have not found a basis for, have not found bias. There's no evidence of bias here, or refuting the theory. I think grammatically basis for makes more sense as well. Have not found a basis for. It's a badly written question. There should be an A there. Have not found a basis for. So I can tell this is not an official question. But anyway, have not found a basis for this controversial view of selection. This pervasive. The reason I say pervasive rather than controversial is just because virtually all accounts have this view, and pervasive means spreading everywhere. Controversial, there's no indication of an argument or a controversy. Controversial means some people view it one way, other people view it another way. It's a controversy. But it said, the clue here is that it says virtually all accounts view it one way, which is a pervasive view, not a controversial view. Like everyone agrees practically on this thing. So confident there in B and F. And let's do the final one, and then I'll check my answers and let you know if I got any wrong. Okay, for someone so unjustifiably something, success, assured of success, intrigued by, unfamiliar with success, we don't know. The recently installed CEO perhaps surprised very few when his series of impractical business solutions did not something the floundering firm. Well, if his solutions were impractical, they would not help the firm. Definitely would not end disastrously, because they probably would end disastrously. And definitely not reflect negatively, because they would reflect negatively. They're impractical. So it's this one here. It's D, pan out for, because these impractical, not helpful business solutions did not pan out for, did not work out for the firm. So going back to the first blank, for someone so unjustifiably, nothing about him being intrigued. And if this is one to think about, if he was unjustifiably, as in no evidence for, being unfamiliar with success, then that means that he should have success. It's the double negative. If he's unjustifiably unfamiliar, then he should be familiar with success. But no, the article points out that this person is unsurprisingly bad. So it doesn't fit with C. It's going to be A. One negative with a positive. He's unjustifiably assured, as he's incorrectly confident, basically. He shouldn't be so confident because it's no surprise he's making mistakes all the time. So interesting negative with a positive word here. It's almost like maths, where they multiply to get a negative. Unjustifiably, that's the negative, times the positive of assured, means he shouldn't be so confident. He's unjustifiably assured. That was quite complicated, quite fun actually. Anyway, let's look over my answers and I'll end with a summary of what we can take away from this. And I did check them all out and they were right, including that one on redundancy that I wasn't too sure on, but they were all right. But the point wasn't to show that I can get a few right. The point was to encourage you to practice yourself. As you can see, they're mixed difficulty. Some of them are easier than others. This one, for example, on the screen was relatively tough. And so it's great practice. And doing these text completion and sentence equivalence questions helps to remind you of how important vocab is. It won't save the day every time, but there are quite a few questions where if you didn't know a key word, you really would be in trouble, especially at the higher end of the test. If you like these kind of quick practice videos, please do leave me a comment to let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.